marketing is slowly getting tied into revenue as well, right? And also, I think the second part is the use of technology, right? Today, everyone's hot favorite topic and the biggest hashtag on social media is AI. If you're not using AI, you're not leveraging the power of technology, right? So I feel like marketers need to quickly figure out, okay, it's not about whether I'll lose my job because of AI. It's about how can if I don't use AI, I might lose my job. So I think picking the social media channels, be it Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok in folks outside of India, totally depends on whom are you selling to.
Hi everyone, welcome to MobileAppDaily and I am Anubha. Today we have Sandeep John with us. He is Director of Demand Generation at Outplay and a top revenue marketer recognized by Demandbase. He has successfully built brands, scaled teams and driven significant growth in his career. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sandeep. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Anubha, and thank you folks for having me here.
So let's get started then. I mentioned these things about you in the introduction, but as per your LinkedIn bio, you love marketing and sales. But apparently, you are also into music, singing, theater, and content creation. You are also vocal about men's mental health issue. This is something which isn't talked about a lot. Tell us a little bit about these things, how you got into this, and how is it going?
So for me, I think as an individual, I've always wanted to try different things. I think this is where, so my career starts in sales. I was essentially an SDR, outbound caller, and eventually in life, I realized that I'm a very creative person. I've always done music and theater and all of that stuff. Somehow marketing became my calling. And then I ventured into that side, and I still am a marketer, of course. But principally, I think men's mental health is something that I'm very vocal about. I feel like, especially in India, a lot more men need to be talking about mental health out in the open, and that's why that initiative. But principally, Anubha, just the context is I love to try different things. I love to try new things, and that's why I'm a person who finds it very difficult to get bored. So I'll always have something or the other. And if you see my background, you'll find a bunch of guitars and books and a whole host of things there in the background. So yeah, I'll always have something going on.
Definitely. I totally agree that especially in India, we should have more people talking about men's mental health issue. They do a lot for us and somewhere they get ignored. But now talking about your experience in sales and marketing, if I'm not wrong, you have almost 20 years of experience in sales and marketing. And currently you are heading demand generation at Outplay. Can you tell a little bit about your role at the company?
Yeah, so my role is essentially, if I have to give it in one line, it's to generate pipeline for our sales team. That's all. And up at my disposal are, of course, different channels that I can use, whether it's paid, organic, events, campaigns, whole host of things, SDR teams that I could use. But essentially, my role is to make sure that the team has the right pipeline. How I can do it apart from all these tactics is, of course, drive brand awareness and all of that as well. So to get people excited, interested about checking out what Outplay does and how we do it for companies. And that's essentially what I do.
Okay. Would you like to give us a little bit insight about what does Outplay do?
So essentially, we are a sales engagement platform that's built to help the lives of salespeople become easy. How we do that, essentially, we try and automate as many of the daily sales tasks that one has and give salespeople the opportunity to personalize wherever they potentially can, right? So if you use a platform like Outplay, it'll help you book a lot more meetings. So typically when a salesperson goes out there, they want to have a lot more conversations. A platform like ours will enable you to get there, to help you build out a series of steps, a sequence of steps and whatnot. But essentially, I think what we're trying to do is, with sales in itself as a process is very hard. It is not easy to sell. We're trying and make it as simple as possible by automation, by personalization at scale, and by making sure that by doing all the right kinds of things, people can book a lot more meetings faster.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, you have almost 2 decades of experience in this domain. So over the years, how have you seen the process of sales and revenue generation transform? And what new approaches have you tried and applied with Outplay products?
I think roles have changed. I think I'll talk both from sales and marketing, right? So sales is no more just rigor. When I say rigor, I mean it's no more just picking up the phone, sending out 100 emails, making 200 calls, going and doing these X number of meetings. It is no more that. I think sales has now become far more creative than ever. I think even because there's so much of noise out there, so many people reaching out. Like even today, like in the next few minutes, I'm 100% sure somebody will make a cold call to me. But even in that cold call, I know the response and what it's going to be like. Of course, I'm nowadays more empathetic because I also work closely with an SDR team. But I think sales has become a lot more creative. Sales has become a lot more scientific than it ever was. Salespeople need to upgrade their skills to be ready for that, right? Like, need to be, how am I going to get my message in front of a prospect? How is my message going to be different from all the 10 or 12 other people emailing that prospect today? Number one. Marketing, I think the big thing that has evolved over time. See, I think marketing, especially in the world that I live in the SaaS world, is very content heavy, right? And it continues to be content heavy. But I think what has happened to marketing over time is marketing also now is being tied into revenue. Marketing up until a point has always been about traffic, has always been about signups. It has always been about those numbers, but not revenue numbers. Maybe pipeline to some extent. Marketing is slowly getting tied into revenue as well, right? And also, I think the second part is the use of technology, right? Today, everyone's hot favorite topic and the biggest hashtag on social media is AI. If you're not using AI, you're not leveraging the power of technology, right? So I feel like marketers need to quickly figure out, okay, it's not about whether I'll lose my job because of AI. It's about how can if I don't use AI, I might lose my job. So it's come down to that point, right? So leveraging the power of technology, because every other day some fellow is launching some new product out there that can be AI friendly and whatnot, right? So I think as marketer, keep learning, be curious, but the world of marketing has changed. The world of marketing is no more, you can't just get away with, hey, I've done number of signups, my job's done. No, you are being tied into pipeline, you are being tied into revenue. So marketers also need to start wearing that hat. And I think that's how the world is changed or changing, continue to change, right? For both sales and marketing today.
Now we spoke about ChatGPT and like AI is the talk of the town. So what do you think? What role does AI have in transforming the sales and marketing processes? And do you have any favorite tools that you include in the process?
I think it helps both, right? Like I think even in sales use cases, several things, just like I just said, right? Like you can use it as your first cut message. If you want to quickly send, hey, I don't know, for example, let's say you're pitching to a newer industry and let's say you don't have all the materials from marketing or whoever has given you saying, how do we talk about this industry? The easiest way is to go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, listen, tell me a little bit more about this industry. Tell me a bit about these personas in this industry. It's the fastest way to kind of quickly learn about, oh, this is industry. Here are and you can even ask ChatGPT, what are the key problems or challenges that this person or this individual or persona is trying to solve? You already get that information like there in like a few seconds, right? So I think using the tool to that extent is like I would use it for research more than anything else. I know a lot of sales folks use it for email templates and all of that stuff. No, nothing wrong with that, but just don't copy paste that. Like I would take that and build something out of that, right? At least use a structure. Or in fact, you can, the smart thing would be is to ask the tool, what is the best structure to use for an cold email outreach to this prospect in this industry for this size company? The system might give you something and you can use that framework to build something. So for the content side, I think the key thing is to figure out how to like use the tools for that, right? If essentially one tool that we use quite often is Copymatic. We use Copymatic for that initial draft of content when writing blogs or specific pages. But it's only for that initial draft. After that, we take the page, we fine tune it, refine it. But it reduces so much of time if you just use a tool like that. Instead of building something from scratch, you just use components of that, right? So essentially something like that. Yeah.
Great. I think like somebody who is from your background will really find these tools helpful in their whole process of reaching out to people. So being a marketer, you are anyways connected to social media a lot, and you are yourself a content creator. But social media is mostly understood to be associated with B2C sales. But tell us how social media and content creation can help the B2B sales process and engagement.
I think it comes from the fact that today all of us consumers, predominantly like you said, we use B2C products on a day-to-day basis, right? You're booking something from like Swiggy for dinner or you're catching an Uber ride or whatever, right? It's very normal. what has happened to the world today is that B2C, and so typically, even if you are not, let's say, the boss of your company, the people who are using it are also the so-called people of that company, right? So people now expect B2C experiences in B2B. They want B2B to act like B2C in terms of customer support, in terms of several of these things, right? Which is why B2B companies also need to like learn from the B2C industry on how to use social, how to get like, I've seen like the most creative ads, of course, will come from B2C. You have to go, and because they're talking to a consumer directly, right? But even if you look at the B2B world now, things are changing. You'll find the B2B world using a lot of ads, which are very B2C kind of friendly, right? So I think it's because the world has changed. We are so used to like, hey, I need an immediate answer right now. I want like a customer support answer. B2B cannot say like, listen, I will talk to you 1 week later and tell you how to fix that problem in your system. They want an answer now. So they want you to reply on chat right now, right? Which is why a lot of B2B build chat ecosystems. Chat ecosystems were predominantly B2C kind of friendly environments, which later translated into B2B. And they want response like that, right? So I think same applies for social media. Same applies for any kind of advertising, and the way B2B brands are positioning themselves. All the learning comes from there because expectations have changed. Consumers, the new age consumer does not want, cannot wait for things, wants to be attracted to stuff, wants to see stuff that's creative, wants stuff that's out there. So those expectations still exist. And that's why B2B also have to catch up with certain things that the B2C world does really well.
So do you think can Instagram be a transformative tool for B2B marketers?
For sure. I think if your audience is there, for sure. Right? If you're targeting a lot of startup, again, depends, right? Who's your consumer? Personally, again, as a company also, we have Outplay does have an Instagram page, but I hardly see traction from that particular page. Like personally, I have a page, of course, that's why I don't use it for company stuff, but then Outplay as a company has a page as well. We don't get even nearly the amount of traction we get on LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is just all over, like everywhere for us. But it totally depends, right? What is that brand selling to? Whom is your audience there on LinkedIn? Then for sure, why not? No harm at all. I think it's definitely a channel because everyone is on LinkedIn doing a bunch of stuff. I think picking the social media channels, be it Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and folks outside of India, totally depends on whom are you selling to. Like, is that audience? For example, I know for a fact in TikTok, while I don't have access, I know for a fact, like in the sales community, there are so many sales channels on TikTok today addressing that community. Right? Because they believe salespeople are on TikTok, especially in the US and all of those folks as well, right? So I think it depends on if your audience is there, why not?
So what do you think, like, according to you, which is your preferred social media platform when it comes to Outplay?
LinkedIn. One word answer, LinkedIn.
Great. So nowadays we see that every B2C brand tries to humanize itself. There are many food delivering apps that have tried to do the same. So what do you think about it? And is it necessary for a B2B company with products like yours to follow the same path?
I think that's a very, very good question, right? Humanizing a brand. I think it comes down to what does your brand identify as? Like, what do we stand for? Right? And I think, see, eventually, no matter what we say, you have great products, you have great sales, you have great marketing. People buy from people, right? Like people, more often than not, it's one of the, I mean, it's one of the things that plays a part in that large. Of course, if you have a bad product, then nobody's going to buy, even if you have a great person. But brands need to humanize because they need to feel like, hey, this is not some corporation, organization, whatnot. This is a real company with real people trying to solve real problems and trying to solve my problem, right? And when they associate that, when they see that in the way you promote yourself on social, and they feel like, see, one of the things we run well at Outplay is that a lot of our campaigns are also based, one of the groups of people we target are typically SDRs, early stage salespeople and all of that kind of stuff, right? So anything that we do in our content and promotions are always giving to them. It's like, hey, yesterday, in fact, very recently, we launched something called the Call of Fame, a property that we had, which was basically recorded cold calls. It's something that not available in the market. Today, if you want to go get better at cold calls, you have to go find some script somewhere. Or if you're in a company, you can listen to some recordings of people in the company. We've got a library of more than 35 odd calls of different people who have submitted to us, of course. And people can go listen to a live call. So we put that entire thing on Spotify now. And we're saying, hey, take this. This is all for you guys. You can go out there in the world, go listen to these calls, get better at cold calling, use it for your trainings in your team. You don't need to, you can just get better at it, right? So now, will that person come and actually buy Outplay? I don't know. They may not even come, but that asset is super useful. Maybe that person will go tell their boss and say, hey, by the way, Outplay has got this library. Maybe we should check out that tool sometime for whatever it's worth, right? But the intention we had was not about, will I get more leads? It was like, hey, can we make SDRs, salespeople successful, make their life easy, which ties into our identity, right? Our identity of we are trying to make the selling process easy. That's our goal. That's our core. That's who we are. And this asset helps in that process. So I think it's vital for brands to become more and more human, especially in the age of AI. After a point, you won't even know who's sending what message. Right? Is it a bot talking to me, or is it like a human being? At what point is the human talking to me? Right. So I think it's important to humanize, because people, again, I said, people buy from people. So that's the thing.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that talking to a human being gives a different sense of belief rather than talking to a bot. So yeah. Now, like if we talk about sales automation tools, there are thousands of sales automation tools and platforms that already exist. So how can a sales engagement platform make sure to get a competitive advantage?
You got the number right. I'll give you the exact number, right? Today, there are 1,206 sales tech tools, not sales engagement, sales tech tools in 49 different categories. This is a crowded market. This is a market that everyone's like literally trying to get a little bit off each other. Why it exists? It exists in the first place that we're constantly trying to solve for how can I make sales better, whether it's a tool like ours or any other tool out there in the market trying to solve a thing, right? A sales engagement platform, not just Outplay, everyone else that exists in this particular space, is not a nice to have tool. It's a must have tool. I'll tell you why. Today, most companies will have some kind of CRM, whether it's like a Salesforce or a Fresh Sales or Zoho CRM or whatever. CRMs are basically built as systems of record, which means that the major role of a CRM is I'll capture your information. Like I have your name, address, all that stuff is there. I know what kind of lead, where you came from, which event, all that jazz I have. Now, sales engagement platforms are systems of action. Basically, it tells you, okay, now I have Anupa's details. How can I reach out to her? Like, day one, I'll call her. Day two, I will send an email to her. Day three, I will put a LinkedIn prospect. So it gives me a set of actions and things to do. So as a salesperson, when I log into my system in the morning, it will say, Sandeep, you have 50 tasks to complete today. One of the tasks is call Anupa. Second task is to email this person. Third task is that, right? So as a salesperson, it tells me exactly what I need to do on that particular day, which means that there is it's a bias for action. It makes me execute. And that's really what salespeople need to do always. Like, go there, do your job, which is essentially either picking up the phone, calling people, networking, sending the right emails, LinkedIn connections. You do whatever you need to do. That's what they're really good at. So make them focus on that and not worry about whom I should send what to. It's already built. The system is built for that, right? So, which is why a sales engagement platform is a must-have tool and not a nice-to-have tool in this 1,200 odd crowded market space.
Sure, definitely. Now we have come to last section of this interview. So I'm not sure if I mentioned in the introduction, but you also have experience as an entrepreneur, and in your LinkedIn you have proudly mentioned that you failed as an entrepreneur. Tell us little about that phase and what did you take from that?
Yeah, it was an absolute failure. It was a complete bomb. Very bad planning, very bad execution, very bad distribution. The only lesson I have from that is, amongst all of the other stuff, right? I think the key with entrepreneurship, and this is not just for me or for future entrepreneurs, right? Figure out your distribution first. Figure out how you're going to get, even if you build like the world's greatest product, whatever you feel, or at least you feel it's the world's greatest, or it's solving a big problem. If you don't know how you're going to distribute that product out there in the world, you're going to have a really tough time, right? And always think about what is that problem you're trying to solve, and don't just be satisfied with like, hey, listen, I believe this is the right problem. Test it out. Like, I think the benefit, the boon of the industry that we are in SaaS world especially, you can build MVP versions of your product, your minimum viable product, like your smaller version of the same product, put it out there in the market, test it, get feedback, learn from it, get better. And it's very hard as founders in the SaaS world, or the world that I'm in, to kind of alienate or delineate yourself from the product. What I mean is, like, you got to step away sometimes and be critical about what you've built. It's very difficult, but only then will you be successful. Like, unless you're able to step and look at stuff like that, right? So distribution, think about the problem, test the problem with feedback. I generally think that those things. So biggest lesson for me is that the bigger lesson is, of course, if you don't figure out your good distribution channel and how you want to put the word out there, more likely than not, you will fail, right? Even if you have the best product in the world, right? So that's my learning. And yeah, will I ever do entrepreneurship again? I don't know, but that's the larger question. But yeah, I know what not to do. So that part is good.
Yeah, yeah. I think failure is the best teacher, as they say, and I hope it will get you more better things in future.
For sure. I hope so too. Thank you. Yeah.
So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. The conversation was really insightful. I hope you had a good time talking to us.
Thank you, Anuban, and really thank you all of the folks again who worked as part of this to get me on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.